Not too long ago, you could walk into a store at 3 in the morning, almost any store, and get whatever you needed. Groceries, medicine, batteries, maybe just a place to wander for a few minutes in the middle of a sleepless night. That version of America, the one that never closed, never stopped moving, it's disappearing. The signs are all around us. Have you noticed? Walmart shuts its doors at 11. Pharmacies that used to be open around the clock now close by dinner. Late-night diners are harder to find. This isn't just about retail hours, it's about a shift in how the country works and how it sees itself. What happened to 24/7 America? Why did it fade away? And what does that tell us about where we're headed? Let's take a closer look. When America never slept. There was a time when 24/7 was the norm, especially in big cities and sprawling suburbs. You could find gas, groceries, coffee, and medicine at any hour. Walmart, Walgreens, diners, gyms, open all night. And for a while, that made sense. Stores weren't just open late for fun, they were responding to real demand. Shift workers, nurses, warehouse crews, line cooks, security guards needed places to go after midnight. Late-night shopping wasn't niche, it was built into the rhythm of how the country functioned. Retailers leaned into it. They wanted to compete for those hours. Walmart made 24/7 access part of its brand. Low prices, anytime. Convenience stores were truly convenient. Diners weren't just aesthetic, they were functional infrastructure for a 24-hour economy. It also worked financially. Labor was cheap, crime was lower. Stores needed to be staffed overnight for restocking anyway, so staying open brought in extra revenue without that much extra cost. Plus, there weren't digital alternatives. If you needed cold medicine or cat food at 2 a.m., you had to go get it in person. That whole ecosystem, economic, technological, and cultural, made 24/7 retail sustainable. But nearly all of those conditions have changed. Labor costs are higher, retail theft is a growing problem. Online shopping fills more of the off-hour demand. And most chains don't see overnight service as a competitive advantage anymore. It's just a liability. Even though people still work odd hours, the retail system no longer stretches to meet them. The demand didn't vanish. The supply did. The quiet decline, before anyone noticed. The real shift started before most people were paying attention. Even in the years leading up to 2020, big retailers were already cutting back overnight hours. Walmart, for example, began scaling back 24-hour service as early as 2016. Hundreds of locations dropped overnight shifts due to low foot traffic, high staffing costs, and rising incidents of theft. Pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens made similar moves, trimming back 24-hour stores in less busy neighborhoods, or switching to reduced schedules after analyzing customer data. Across the board, retailers were becoming more data-driven. If no one was shopping between midnight and 6 a.m., those hours got cut. The rise of e-commerce made that decision even easier. Why pay staff to sit under fluorescent lights all night if customers were ordering toilet paper online from bed? By the time COVID arrived, the 24/7 model was already weakening. The pandemic didn't start the decline, it just finished what had already begun. Why it really died. So why did 24/7 disappear? COVID was a major trigger, but not the root cause. The reasons run deeper. First, economics. Running a store all night is expensive. You've got to pay for staff, lights, security, often for just a handful of customers. And when margins are thin, it's hard to justify staying open for the off hours. Second, labor shortages. Even before the pandemic, finding people willing to work overnight wasn't easy. After 2020, it became even harder. People left low-paying, high-stress jobs in retail and didn't come back. And many stores simply couldn't staff those late-night shifts anymore. Third, technology. For a lot of late-night needs, people just turned to their phones. Online shopping replaced emergency trips to the store. Delivery apps filled in for the 2 a.m. diner run. Why go out when you can tap a few buttons and have it brought to you? Fourth, safety and public health. There's also the reality that late nights can be unpredictable. Some businesses didn't want to take the risk, especially in areas where overnight crime was a concern. And in many major cities, that concern has become specific. In recent years, there's been a sharp increase in overdose incidents, particularly related to fentanyl, occurring in or near 24-hour stores. Pharmacies and convenience chains have quietly acknowledged that late-night hours, especially downtown, come with more medical emergencies, more police calls, and a rising risk for both staff and customers. Some chains simply decided it wasn't worth it. When you zoom in on the closures in urban areas, you see a pattern: stores that once served as late-night lifelines now boarded up, or closing by 7 p.m. Not because people didn't need them, but because those locations became too difficult to manage safely. It's not just a retail story, it's part of a larger unraveling of public services and public space. What we lost. Even if the closures make sense on paper, something bigger went missing when 24/7 faded out. Those late-night spaces were more than just places to buy things. They were part of the city's circulatory system. A place to go when everything else was closed, a kind of informal safety net, especially for shift workers, night owls, and people living on the edge of the system. And they were open to everyone. No gatekeeping, no appointments, no status check. That mattered. There's also the cultural side. The idea that the world was always on was tied up in a kind of American optimism, that you could do anything, anytime, that the future was available at all hours. Without 24/7, something feels smaller, more limited, like the window of possibility is just a little narrower than it used to be. And that shift becomes more obvious when you look outside the US, because this isn't a universal trend. In parts of Asia, especially Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, 24/7 retail is still thriving. Convenience stores there aren't just gas station add-ons. They're clean, reliable, and deeply integrated into daily life. You can grab a meal, pay bills, print documents, or ship packages at 2 a.m. without it feeling strange. The staff are trained, the spaces are safe, and the expectation of around-the-clock access hasn't gone away. It raises the question, why is 24/7 still working there but not here? Some of it's urban design, some of it's labor conditions. But a lot of it comes down to trust in the workers, in the customers, in the public space itself. The decline of 24/7 in the US isn't just about cost, it's about friction. It's about how much unpredictability businesses are willing to absorb. And in America, that threshold keeps getting lower. Where we're headed. So what does the future look like? It's probably not going back to 24/7, at least not the way it used to be. We're moving into something else, a kind of 9 to 9 world where things shut down earlier and late night activity becomes the exception, not the rule. The only thing that might reverse that trend? Technology, automated checkout kiosks, AI-powered vending systems, maybe even fully cashierless convenience stores. These things can stay open when humans can't. And as they get more common, 24/7 access might return, but in a much quieter, more impersonal form. The question is, will it feel the same? Because what made 24/7 unique wasn't just the convenience, it was the feeling that the world kept turning even when everything else was asleep. That you could step into a well-lit space at 3 a.m. and not feel alone. Automation might bring back the hours, but it won't bring back that.